Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. A longtime veteran of the custom integration industry, RoseWater Energy Group's Joe Piccirilli is particularly excited by the prospects of home energy management, power protection, and battery storage becoming an increasingly vital pain point for integrators to address. He shares why providing an industrial-grade solution can be a big differentiator for dealers in this week's episode of the podcast. As always, be sure to subscribe to CE Pro's YouTube channel and hit that like button on our videos, or subscribe to the CE Pro podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review. Joe Piccirilli, CEO of RoseWater Energy Group, thanks so much for joining the CE Pro podcast.
Well, thank you, Arlen. Thank you for inviting me. And before we go any further, I have to say, in my 50 years in this industry, I think this is the first time I've ever been trending. So thank you.
Well, we certainly want to talk about why you're trending. So Joe, like you said, you're an industry lifer, but this was, I know, a really exciting project that you got involved with several years ago. If you could just start us off by giving us a bit of background on the company, it's still relatively young history in the CI channel, but certainly making waves in a category that is very important right now.
Yes, and it's interesting because I started the company RoseWater. I founded in 2012, and I founded the company because in my past life, when I was involved with Avid, I was one of the founders of Avid, a distribution company. I had noticed, we were putting all these microprocessors in homes and all these really sophisticated control systems. And what was disturbing was we had a lot of clients who were really angry, who were not happy with those control systems. And I'm an engineer by education, so my engineering brain took over and I decided, well, wait a minute, what's the problem? So I looked at the major manufacturers of that control gear. I took all the control gear apart and I'm going, wow, this stuff is really robust. It comes out of the commercial world. It's good. And then, you start evaluating the installations. And for the most part, with some exceptions, the installations were also quite good. So what was the cause of the problem? And as it turned out, my analysis showed that the problem was power, because microprocessors do not like voltage fluctuations. And in the past, utilities had this standard for how much voltage could fluctuate. And it was pretty inconsequential to our lifestyles, because you might not be old enough, but the big consequence in the 80s was when you got your brand new VCR and could record video, the clock would blink. That was the consequence of voltage fluctuation.
I do remember the clock blinking.
And in today's world, a microprocessor goes and you may not be able to turn on your lights, or this really sophisticated control system needs to be entirely rebooted. So I'm going, wait, we're doing all this sophistication, and the utility, based on the way grids work, really isn't going to get better, because it's just the very nature of power generation. Why don't I figure out how to build a product that would provide perfect power at all times at the panel level? Because it's no longer we're putting it in the audio rack. One of the things I keep harping on to system integrators is the system integrator is now the fourth pillar of the infrastructure of a house. It used to be mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Well, now it's information technology, and we touch all other systems. So you can't just put it in a rack. It's got to be, okay, I can control systems in a house.
Right, and we're talking about some enormous houses in a lot of the cases that
Yes.
our guys are working in.
Enormous houses and very sophisticated. So, what I thought, mistakenly, would be a fairly trivial project took 4 years of engineering, finding a company that could take my concepts and engineer to a real product at very high standards. And in 2012, we began the journey, my partner and I, and then in 2016, we released our first product. And what I said, and it was to Boca Home Theater, I live in Florida, and Jeff Gallia at Boca is a friend of mine, and I said, Jeff, this is the first one of these I've built. I've tested it in a lab for a year. I would like to put it in your store, and I would like you to beat the daylights out of it. Just redefine stupidity for me. Just do whatever you can. And because no matter what we do in a lab, it can't replicate life.
Right. And Jeff would be
So,
a great beta tester, certainly.
and Jeff is a double E. Jeff graduated as an electrical engineer, so he knew how to really beat it. So, and we left it in Jeff's store for 6 months. It performed flawlessly. And then we began, okay, let's see if the world is ready for a device that's $100,000, give or take, to provide perfect power. And then it became a real battle for mind share, educating people, beginning to sit down and really, almost with a rifle shot approach, dealer by dealer, going, look, here's the problem you're experiencing out in the field, and here's the solution. Both fortunately and unfortunately, we've had lots of people introduce battery backup. We've all seen the Tesla and Sonnen, and there are all these products that are battery backup. And as much as they've brought battery backup to the forefront of people's minds, they've also created a tremendous number of misconceptions. And people think that battery backup and power conditioning are the same thing, which they are not. So that's been our educational challenge. We did evolve the product from its original product to, which was a 2-box solution, to the single box solution we have today, which is called the SP20. And my contention is that the SP20 is the single most complete energy management system available. Now, granted, I'm not objective, nor do I intend to ever be. So,
Of course not. So before we get into really the crux of what the product is, let's talk a little bit more just about, like you said, the company is really starting to gain more traction in the industry. Last year was a pretty big year for you guys. It sounded like you made some key personnel moves and additions. What can you share with us about how 2021 was as we headed into 2022?
2021 was a great year for us, despite all of the difficulties with COVID and getting houses built on time and all the rest. We seem to have turned a real corner in awareness in the dealer base. We are fortunate enough to be able to hire David Lakin as our Vice President of Sales, and David has taken it upon himself to really build out our rep force and find quality integrators who are interested in providing RoseWater type products to their customers. So it's been a really good year. We joined Azione as a vendor member, so we had access. We now have access to their members. So it's been great. It's been a lot of work, and of course, there's areas that are frustrating, and I'm sure you've heard it from other people. You have a project. Oh yes, this project, we're going to close this house. People are going to move in April, and now the question I have to ask is, what year? Because it's certainly things are late, and a year. I have projects that are 2 years late, but the level of interest and the work that David has done for us has been great. And of course, the Marketing Matters team has been diligent in the way they've helped us market this product. So I have to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk about it. Just the RoseWater, the Hub SP20 energy and storage system. It's a real just comprehensive unit. It's the crux of what you guys are offering to technology pros out there in both residential and light commercial. So, let's just go into some of those details in terms of the features that it incorporates, and what are some of the roles of those features that we can kind of, really maybe put it into layman's terms for people out there, because we are still educating dealers on what exactly they're going to get into.
Absolutely, and of course, it's one of my favorite subjects. So when I begin to wander into this too deep, you'll stop me. It's your responsibility. So really, the design parameter in the beginning was I was going to build the best product. So the first piece of it was, okay, I need to find a manufacturing partner who is used to building military spec product. And then the next was every component should be the best component of its type in the world. And my manufacturing and engineering team helped me find them. And then, of course, it was the most complete solution. So, when you start at the heart of a power conditioning piece is the inverter. And you have some choices. Most people will build a monolithic inverter, So if it's a 10 kilowatt, in our case, a 20 kilowatt system, it would be one inverter. And if that inverter goes down, your system's done. We chose to use N+1 redundancy. So our inverter is made up of 8 modules. And what N+1 means, if one of those modules fails, I don't lose capacity. And that every key component in a RoseWater is hot swappable. So a module goes down, we get an alert. We send out a new one. It's the old module is pulled out, new module is put in. You tell the little computer on the RoseWater that you put in a new module and you're done. So those are very key. And the inverters we use are extremely quiet and extremely accurate. You know, I grew up in old time audiophile, so that's still in my roots. So I needed to be as quiet electrically as possible. And we have accomplished that.
Right, and certainly we know that the role that power can play in audiophile systems. We hear it all the time. And you wanted to go with the enterprise grade route to really make this, you know, ultra premium product, a kind of a fail-safe product. So what, in terms of the capabilities, what can it do and what can't it do?
All right, I'm going to start from the top. There are a couple of other things that I want to talk about because I live in South Florida, and one of the things that's important to us is lightning.
Sure.
How do you protect these critical systems from lightning? And it certainly is not going out buying a $199 lightning protector. That's just not going to do anything. So I researched, how do telcos and broadbands do it? How does the military do it? And they have this really cool set of circuits that can take up to 40 strikes of 140,000 volts before they're sacrificed. That's in a RoseWater. That exact circuit is in our device. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because people talk to me about it all the time, is our batteries. We provide large scale battery, but we use lead acid batteries. We do not use lithium products. There are a couple of reasons to use lead acid. The advantage of lithium is weight. Once a RoseWater is set in place, it's not going anywhere, so weight is not an issue. But more importantly, a lead acid battery is the single most recycled product on the planet. 96% of a dead lead acid battery makes a new one. The only thing not used to make a new battery is the acid, and the acid is put in a neutralizing pond and is used for irrigation and fertilization. No other product, you can't say that about any other product. It's just, you know, from an environmental standpoint, it is the best thing you can have. That's why anybody, you go to get your car battery changed, oh, we will take your car battery and dispose of it at no charge, because they get paid between $25 and $150 for those batteries. So it's, you know, we're very careful about how we choose the products, both from a safety standpoint and to be responsible, I guess is the best word. So what can a RoseWater do? Rule of thumb, we back up a 200 amp panel. So what that would mean to a client is all security, all networking, all communication, all lighting control, all control systems within the house. I've forgotten already if I said all security, so cameras and all of that. And if the lighting is LED, we can protect all the fixtures. And that's the standard rule of thumb. Now you've covered the most microprocessor intensive pieces of a house. So, you know, the entertainment, everything is covered by the RoseWater. We help our dealers through the load calculations. And one of the biggest advantages of a RoseWater product is every RoseWater product sold is commissioned by a RoseWater person. It's my crews. I have 4 crews around the country who can commission these pieces so that when we deliver them, and we white glove deliver to site, we ask for an electrician to be there, because I can't pull a permit in every county in the country, but we watch the electrician hook it up, and it's 3 wires in and 3 wires out for the electrician. And then our guy commissions the entire product, hooks it up to the communication to the web, and tests it on site. So we give the dealers essentially a turnkey product. And I think that's incredibly important, because one of the uphill battles we had, because we were talking about it off air, is, you know, what was difficult about dealers. When our system integrators hear high voltage, a lot of them start to tremble. You know, it's like, holy crap, what do I do with that? And I didn't want to leave it up to electricians alone because one, I don't know a lot of electricians. And two, I do know that the competency of an electrician can have a wide delta. So when my guys are watching, I know it's done right. And I think that's a key point for RoseWater and RoseWater Service is that we take the guesswork out of our dealers. Now, some of our dealers who, have done this for years now are sitting there saying, Joe, I really, I want your guy out here, but they do all their load calcs. It's easy. We have two installations going on as we're speaking. And, these are old line dealers and it's a walk in the park. I can smile and I don't have to sit by my phone going, is everything going okay? So,
Right.
but that's an important piece of RoseWater.
So let's talk about the dealers where they're experiencing success and traction with the product. I believe it is for custom homes and light commercial, resi-commercial environments.
That's correct.
So how is it starting to gain traction with them? How are they able to, pitch the use cases for them with clients and get themselves up to speed on, training, marketing materials, anything like that? Where and how are they experiencing success?
Well, we're going to start with the where first. Our two most successful states are California and Florida. Coincidentally, they have the worst. Both states have horrible power, and they have horrible power because both states were extreme growth states. And right now, Florida is undergoing just this. People can stop coming. It's just, we have so many people moving into the state. But so those states were very, very quick with us. And what happened is because the brownouts and the micro outages were so not only prevalent, but talked about in the news media, the dealers were sitting there ripping their hair out for solutions. And, it's interesting. California sort of started, one of our dealers had a problem with a client. And, he said Joe, I think the problem is power. And he had never sold a RoseWater before. And I happened to be going out to California in his market. And he said, could you come to this site and look at it? I said, sure. So we went out and looked. I talked to the builder. I talked to the electrician. I said, we can solve this problem. And we went in, solved the problem. And they went from a call a month to no calls. The builder is ecstatic. It's that product's been out there for 3.5, 4 years now. And there's no client dissatisfaction. The client is ecstatic. In fact, the dealer and I were talking yesterday. He said the builder had built a house across the street from this house, and that person is just ripping their hair out because their gear is failing all the time. And the builder keeps going, I have a solution. It's right across the street. Just put it in. Call Mark. He'll put it in for you. So, it is that kind of build. And the same was going on in South Florida. I got a call from a friend of mine who's a dealer. And he said, Joe, I have this client who is, due to power problems, is spending $30,000 to $40,000 a year replacing product. He lives about 10 minutes from you. Can you go look? I said, sure. So I went and looked at it and I said, yeah, we can solve this. And he has had the product now for 4 years. He has had 0 problems. And I will tell you, because one of the features of RoseWater, because we could go on forever just the RoseWater SP20, but I monitor power, input power, 24/7. And I could pull it up for you right now, one of my devices, and you could see power quality anywhere in the country. And this person has the worst power I've ever seen. And it's just like, he never notices. Now it's almost, when the RoseWater is doing its job, the clients forget they have it because it's like nothing is going on. I was at a dealer in Florida on the West Coast last week doing some training. And he said, it's interesting. Storm goes by. The only clients we don't hear from are our RoseWater clients. Everybody else is bitching. Everybody else is complaining. So that's the momentum that's starting to build. And now all of a sudden we have, the same problems exist in Colorado. And now we have dealers looking at it because dealers talk to dealers. And we have Texas that experience, just the horrible power problems. And it's like, we need those devices.
Sure. So it sounds like a lot of the areas where certainly natural disasters and elements can really impact things, along with, the talk that we've had in the past about just, kind of just the really old power grid around the country in certain areas, or even places like New York where everything is really packed in and just
Exactly.
having lots of problems.
Well, you mentioned New York. Think about the Hamptons, right? 30 years ago, the Hamptons, had a few really big houses on the water, but that was it. And now the Hamptons is packed with big houses. And the power feeder to the Hamptons hasn't changed in 50 years. So they experience, we have a couple of devices in the Hamptons where I look at that and they experience, when summer's coming and everybody's moved there because the power gets really crappy. So it's everywhere. There's so many places like that. You look at, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Palm Beach. Fort Lauderdale used to be, people would have their little winter cottages on these waterfront lots in Fort Lauderdale in the 50s. And these cottages were like 1,500 square feet. Well, now that same patch of dirt is 15,000 square feet. So, and that's where it's happening. I mean, you look at the states that are experiencing either a movement of wealth or just straight up population growth. It's hard to build a power plant. Could be 20 years in permitting.
Joe, what are you seeing in the light commercial, resi-mercial aspect of it? Certainly we've talked about CE pros going into those categories in terms of outfitting for AV or automation or digital signage, but we're talking about a serious power product, and I know from the background, like you said, it's really kind of industrial grade.
Yes.
What sort of use cases are you seeing there with some of your dealers?
Well, it's interesting. The first use case that came to us were people running financial services family offices. They're running their computers, they're trading globally, and they can't afford their computers to ever glitch. And that was kind of, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And we had a couple of those, and that's a big deal. And now all of a sudden we're seeing medical labs and some of the diagnostic areas where they're 24/7 diagnostics, because it turns out if that equipment glitches, it could be 5 hours to get it back up, and calibrated. Some days it's 24 hours to get it calibrated. If it's a medical lab doing blood work and sample analysis, they can't have those fridges go down because they're loaded with samples. So we're seeing a lot of traction in that area as well. I suspect that legal offices and doctors' offices, as the world goes entirely digital, are going to have the same issues. They can't afford a glitch because a glitch during the day costs money, or God forbid they lose data. That would
right.
be terrible.
Certainly all these kind of mission critical environments, just a definite scale to them, but a lot of opportunities that you're seeing there for dealers. And anecdotally, are you hearing a lot about that? Certainly, we've seen some names come into the energy management and storage category recently. And even like you said, companies like Tesla doing a lot of work with batteries. But in terms of the opportunity for integrators, what kind of questions do you hear from them saying like, "Hey, is this really an opportunity for us? How can we tie this system into other integration capabilities?" What sort of questions are they asking of you about, how authentic this opportunity is?
It's a great question you ask, because it leads me down the path of the amount of misinformation that's out there. I mean, there are companies, Tesla being one of them, that promotes battery backup. And battery backup is exactly that. Load your batteries from a renewable for the grid, the power goes down, and it will back up, in reality, some portion of your house. Although all clients start out by saying, I want to back up my whole house. And after I stop laughing, I go, okay, you're going to have to build a separate building for batteries alone, and you might get a couple of hours. And oh, by the way, you're going to need another building for the inverters because you have 1,000 amp service in this house. This is not practical. And of course, people don't understand the difference between battery backup and power quality. And it is the power quality aspect that is the huge opportunity for our channel, because nobody gets it. But nobody is as affected by power quality anomalies as our channel. And who do they call when anything like that happens? They don't call the cable company. They don't call the utility. They call our guys. It's your fault that the power went down. Well, not really, but So the ability to talk to your clients about how investing in power quality will not only allow the critical systems in your house to function at all times, but they will perform better and last longer. We now have, like Jeff, the guy who got the first RoseWater, I had dinner with him about a week ago, and he was saying, now he has noticed, because it's been in his office or in his store enough to go through product cycles. He's going, the RoseWater, the products connected to the RoseWater are performing like they're brand new. So the lifestyle, we're going to stop from taking this from anecdotal. We're now going to do some research on, okay, when you are connected to pure power, what does that really mean to longevity? Because it's clear that there is something there. And obviously the opportunity in our channel is to be heroes to your client, because you are preventing them from serious inconvenience in their houses. And it is the ability to explain the difference between, hey, that's just battery backup. And if that's all you're looking for, I get it. But if you're looking to protect your house, you need power quality. And a lot of people, oh, I have a generator. Well, who's going to protect your equipment from the generator? Because a generator is terrible power. And, and quite honestly, in a typical RoseWater setup, there is a giant generator, because, it's a giant house. So it has a giant generator. And then there is a panel, a critical load panel, that the RoseWater protects not only from the grid, but it protects it from the generator. And that is a very typical setup. I think a lot more integrators are now asking their clients, and this is from, this was a question asked or taught to me by one of my dealers, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. He now goes to this client, and the first question out of his mouth on a new project is, what is your power plan for this project? And I think that's absolutely brilliant, because that just leads into the discussion. Because people will go, well, I thought that was the utility. And no, you have to protect yourself from the utility. So we're seeing more and more, and hopefully I'll start releasing pieces of this video, but we did a roundtable with 6 of our key dealers in Dallas, Texas, that I videoed, and it's 2 hours and 30 minutes. But you start to hear it. You start to hear the momentum changing. You start to hear the interest. And from a business standpoint, for our dealers, this is a product that is not part of the AV networking budget. This is part of the house budget. And at a time when you are a custom integrator, it is very difficult to scale jobs per year, because they're all custom. However, so it is our challenge as integrators to scale dollars per job. And as the price of control systems drops, as the price of 2-piece projectors, wall-mounted TV, it's all dropping like crazy. How do you backfill that business? And quite honestly, you do your customers a huge service by taking a device like a RoseWater, adding it into the budget of the house. And then you've increased your dollars per customer by $100,000, which is not so bad. Not so
sure,
bad.
And I would imagine that a lot of the jobs that your guys are working on, that they're including these products, are already going to be 6-figure jobs to begin with.
Absolutely.
And really, like as you say, there's the mission critical side on the commercial resi-mercial, but for these types of clients, their homes are mission critical. Every system that's going on in there.
Exactly.
So Joe, for integrators who haven't started addressing this category and may, like you said, you mentioned the word electrician, they get a little tremble, or, anything involving energy management or storage, things like that. What are some of the stumbling blocks that they talk about? And then, what are the ways that, you go through with them, and maybe even some of your dealers kind of help walk them through it, but how are they overcoming them?
Great question again. RoseWater has and will always provide, when a dealer is going through his first sale, Joe, I have a client. And what RoseWater offers, with the help of David or reps, or they get me on the phone as well, we will help you through the client interview. We never want to sell the client, but we will help you there, be your backstop. We help you through the calculations of load. We prep you for the client interview. Because once, as I talked before, this has to be a rifle shot for us, because you can't do it in broad-based training at the moment. But once a dealer gets used to a couple of those, then they're very comfortable doing it on their own. And we walk them through every step of the way. We have our client intake form. And as you check it off, okay, client said yes, deposits come. Here are the next steps towards installation. Here's what's required, and we walk them through every step. We have to get them, we spend time with them telling them, okay, this is battery backup. This is how you deal with somebody that, I'm going to put in, 1 Tesla Powerwall and it's going to power my 10,000 square foot home. Well, no, it's not, but here's how you deal with it. And we take it step by step, and we're very, very active with individual dealers. And I know that sounds like, oh God, it's such a cottage business, you'll never be able to scale it. But we are working to automate that procedure as well. And then as we get our dealer base and our rep base more robust around the country, our reps are able to do it. And I have a rep firm in Texas and Oklahoma that can do it all by themselves, which is great. Our Florida reps can do it by themselves because they have me as a backstop because I live here, but they don't even talk to me. It's great. That's absolutely great. But that's how we scale it, and it's really a personal, hands-on experience to get them comfortable for the first few.
Right. So in terms of, once they are on board and they're going through and learning a lot from RoseWater, then just to kind of, sort of sum things up and circle back around with it, the best practices, any advice that you have for dealers, just how do they show this product? How do they demonstrate it? Maybe they can't fit it into their showroom, and educate customers on it. Do you find that some of them bring prospects to other jobs to show them exactly how it works? Are you having conversations over Zoom with clients right now and prospects and dealers to bring them together? What are some of those stages that they go through, just so you can arm them with the most information that they have to really pitch and kind of close the deal here?
We have a couple of dealers who actually have them in their showrooms, which is great. And their big demo is they go and turn off the power and they go, what did you notice? Well, nothing. That's the point. Nothing happened. And that's pretty cool. We will get, because I can log into units, particularly units that are in store, I can do Zoom meetings with client and dealers and say, okay, this is what power looks like. So I'll just on a Zoom call log into a device in a store in Arizona or my store here in Boca, or I got a couple where I have clients permission to log in. Say, this is what's going on with power. This is what you see, because we log on screen, we log up to 30 days, and then in storage, we log well over a year of power logs. But we allow people to see, hey, this is what the problem is. And when they see it, when you're seeing power fluctuate second to second, you're going, wow, I had no idea that existed. So that is another way. And then of course, they're in markets like California and Florida, the dealers have other clients and they use the other clients for just testimonials. It is because the clients, knock on wood, the clients love this thing. I mean, they are just like, I put that in, I don't have problems. And that's all that matters, and that's how we do it. I mean, I wish there was some magical formula I could share with you that, is brilliant, but this is grinding. It's hard work. It's rewarding work, because I do think, I was so pleased when I saw this as a trend, because I believe this is the next frontier. And it won't be just RoseWater, because once people see it, people are going to try and do it. But it is the frontier for our dealers, and it really does complete the satisfaction cycle of our product. Because as I keep saying, with a RoseWater in the system, all of the systems hooked up to it always work. You don't hear people going, oh, my Crestron's down. Well, no, it's not. It's never down.
Right. So well, it sure sounds like a powerful pitch, to pitch power to prospects and new customers, and maybe even existing customers. So with that, Joe Piccirilli from RoseWater Energy Group, I want to thank you for sharing your time and really just enlightening us about more of what's possible out there with this type of product.
Thank you, Arlen. Thank you for having me on.